Hi, Jamin. Hi.
Hi, Julian. Yeah,
How
how are you doing?
fabulous is technology to be talking to you in Beijing?
Yeah. It's all
Ah,
because of the digital technology.
yeah. So, yeah, it's a great pleasure to be talking to you. I'm
Yeah, me too.
really happy. I'm really impressed because your platform has been an inspiration for me.
Well,
So,
okay. Yeah, you are doing a great job too, actually. So,
uh, so we've
okay.
got all of these people internationally listening to
Yeah,
us. Maybe we can tell them a little bit about what we're doing. So Yian,
sure.
you're the elder here. You've been online for much longer than we have. Can you quickly introduce?
Sure. Yeah. So we started about 7 years ago
Uh huh.
as a translation blog at that time,
Uh huh.
and soon we developed a Web 2.0 platform to allow other users to join us. So basically, we are a translator community.
Uh huh.
So we allow online translators to translate articles from foreign language to Chinese
Uh huh.
voluntarily. Uh, by now, we are not only translating articles but also books.
Uh huh.
So that's basically what we are doing.
Yeah.
So
So it's
yeah. So what about Mark Polo project?
well, we were inspired partly by you. We're
Thank you.
basically the reverse platform. We're translating writing from China into English, French, and Spanish.
Wow.
Uh, so yeah, we're I guess both
Well,
of.
actually,
Mm.
uh I'm sorry. Actually, I got a question for you. You know, for Chinese readers,
Hmm.
because of the information gap, usually Chinese readers are much more, eager to get information from foreign language,
Uh huh.
foreign language. But you know, what's the major purpose for your project? To introduce something from Chinese to English.
Mm. I guess we're probably much more niche. I think yeah, most English readers are not
Hmm.
necessarily interested as yet uh, about what's happening in
That's
China.
true. Hmm.
I started the platform very selfishly because I wanted to know. So it it
That's a good reason. Yeah.
it really started because I was really curious. I'd been studying Chinese for maybe 3 or 4 years, and at that stage I could start reading and just thought, okay, who's an interesting person writing on the internet about China now? Where do I find them? What are they
That's
saying?
good.
And I didn't
Hmm.
know, I couldn't find them. So I thought, well, this can't, there's a problem, there's a gap. We need to build a platform to bring these voices that I want to read. And maybe if I want to read them, I'm not alone. Other people want to read them. Uh, so yeah,
I
it's
see.
it's really, I think, for the moment, it's servicing these Westerners who, or these whatever you call them, people outside China who have developed an interest for the country through studies, personal relations, or other business, whatever reasons.
Yeah,
Mm.
I see. So I guess it's more difficult for you to, I mean, compare with EM project. So probably uh, you will face more challenge, more difficulties. Is that true?
I think we'll face different challenges. So the possibly the audience for our writing is smaller, I guess.
Hmm.
Uh, how many users do you have on Yiyan now and
Well,
readers?
we have more than 400,000 registered users,
Mm.
and for the readership, I think every day there are more than 40,000 unique visitors on our website. So it's not big, but pretty much I would say.
it's enormous compared to us. We're much smaller. We started online last year, but we have
You're
450.
much younger, actually.
Yeah, we're still much younger, but we're heading towards 500 registered users, and
Congratulations.
on very good months, we're heading towards 1,000 unique visitors.
Wow.
So
Congratulations. Yeah.
it's not nothing, but on good weeks we're heading towards 1,000. But it's really nowhere near as big as where you are, and it's partly age, but yeah, it's partly the difference in the size of the audience and the interest that it attracts, I guess.
Yeah.
And the skills, there are as yet not many people outside China who would read Chinese well enough to be able to translate it, I think. Possibly.
Yeah.
So
that's true. Actually, go ahead.
No. You were saying actually?
Yeah, actually, we tried several times to do the similar thing as you are doing. Because we want to do the reverse translation, translate something from Chinese to foreign language to English, but it's very tough. I would say it's very tough. It's much harder job than translating something from English to Chinese.
Well, for you it would be. For me, it's easier.
Okay.
I can't even imagine translating something into Chinese. That's way beyond. It's in a future life that I'll be able to maybe do that.
Okay.
But yeah, so what kind of material? Because I suppose we probably also don't publish exactly the same type of texts. Well, first because you publish much more. But what kind of articles or pieces do you find your readers really like?
Well, actually, it depends. Actually, we have different times. I mean, different stages. Because when we start EN, I mean, the two other co-founders and I were in United States at that time. So we were thinking of doing something new, something like startup.
Yeah.
So we were reading a lot of materials talking about startup, VC technology, mainly web technologies. So when we start EN, most content in this domain, I mean, in about startups, about web technologies, about VC. So at that time, our readership was also around these topics. So, but as gradually, I mean, as more translators join us, so the topics became wider and wider. Especially after we launched the project that was collaborating with the Guardian meeting. So the topics became more social, social about social life. So it changed.
Okay, so you started
as yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, we started.
So you started as a kind of a geek platform.
Yes, exactly.
And then you became a kind of a general public platform.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah. So what about Marco Polo project?
Well, the very early articles. I came to Marco Polo as a linguist and someone who studied humanities, not tech really. And so my form of geek is reading sociology, or about religion. So bizarre niche nonfiction is what is my bizarre area of interest.
All right.
And so it started with these types of pieces. I had a few friends advise me on where to look, and we got a lot of pieces from a website called 1510 by Li Chuli Wei. The My 1510. kind of call it the Chinese Huffington Post. 一五一十.
Okay. I see.
Uh,
I see.
一五一十. So yeah, we selected articles from their whatever best of the month and most read pieces. So yeah, it started like that. Then when we started attracting a few translators, I noticed that many of them were women and were quite interested in pieces that were about relationships and everyday life. Also, possibly because they were slightly easier to translate. Often, I noticed that our users were attracted because they wanted to read but also practice Chinese. So, very hard pieces were not too appealing. There was a website called Shudong, which was a kind of aggregator where people could post anonymously about their feelings, their relationship with their family, etc. And it was about, why I divorced my husband, I hate my mother, my father is a psychopath, etc. And people loved it. So all of these got translated very quickly.
Wow.
So that was appealing.
That's a bit different from the content on EN.
And I guess what was attractive to our readers about that was the possibility of seeing how a Chinese person would reflect about their everyday life. And often it was, I've had feedback from readers, translators, etc., saying it's fascinating that person in Beijing has a life that's actually quite close to me, and the way they think about they articulate their feelings or the loneliness that they experience, the complex relationships with their friends are not entirely different from mine. And it's not too surprising when you think about it, but for these people, it was the first time they actually entered into the emotional life and the brain and saw the world through the eyes of a Chinese person. And that was actually quite a radical experience, I know, for some of our readers.
Okay. You just mentioned that most of your translators are women. Is that true? Or
so it's actually changed. The early adopters were women, interestingly, and now I think still a solid half of our translators would be women.
I see. Well, that's another difference,
Mm.
from EN, because most of our translators are males, not female. Well, I would say it also changed. Right, you're right. It also changed. In the early stage, most translators were males, but today probably I would say half and half. But readership, I mean, most readers are still males.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the gender of our readers. We still don't have a lot of data on that, but the registered users and the people who come to the events or workshops that we've organized were mostly women. I'm actually surprised that you have more men, because I imagined that translation and working with texts, etc., was traditionally a thing that women did more. It was more feminine, but maybe not in China.
Well, it's true here. I think, it's more like a woman. Well, I wouldn't say that because it's a bit like sensitive topics. Well, I think things changed since last year. After we launched a project called EN Gutenberg Project. So that project focuses on translating books in public domain. Most of the translators getting involved in that project, I think I would say are females.
Oh, okay. And that's
probably traditional translation work, translating books or something like that, but not translating articles online. Probably that's the difference.
Okay, that's actually quite interesting. But mostly that project. So Yiyan Gutenberg, and you're
Mhm.
translating books in the public domain. So that would be, how does it work in China? Is it books more than 50 years or more than 100 years?
Yeah, you're right. So after the authors died, I mean, 50 years after the authors died, so that's called the book in public domain. So we struck that project because we want to maximize the output of our community and to find a better way to, for our translators to use their skills, their spare time to contribute to our readers. But for traditional translating, and publishing industry, we have to solve the copyright issue.
Yeah.
So that's why we select the public domain as our major field. So, and that project is going quite well, I would say. So for 1.5 years, we have more than 180 books translated.
Wow.
And we have another 300 books in translation. And we only have 2 inside editors getting involved in the organization work. So it's pretty amazing.
That's enormous.
That's so-called crowdsourcing model. That's how we, develop the website gradually, step by step. And today, we are quite familiar and we're quite experienced with the crowdsourcing.
This is really impressive. So, tell me more about the books you're translating. So, are they only English language? Other languages as well?
Well, not only English language, but most are, English.
Yeah.
But we also translate books from Japanese, French, and we even from Italian. So
and
we
that's
do have
novels, non-fiction, philosophy.
Yeah, most are novel. Yeah, quite wide range of topics. So including novels, non-fiction, education, even some history. So things like that, and even some science fiction. Is that science fiction?
Science fiction.
Yes, right.
So. And it's all available on yiyan.org?
Well, we distribute actually we sell the translation, we sell the ebooks through ebook channels, distribution channels in China, like Kindle China, Tangcha, which is our product of ebook store, Douban, and Duokan. So major ebook distribution channels in China.
Okay.
And we also collaborate with traditional publishers to publish the paperback versions. So, but not all of them will have paperback versions. Some of them, but all of them will be published electronically.
That's quite cool. So, crowdsourcing classics. I'm wondering, we're translating online. One question that people always ask me is around Google Translate and various models of translation. And then also, you have a number of people translate. Is that better than just one translator? How does it work, etc.? What's your view on that?
Well,
have you had people? Have you had people tell you, "Oh, your crowdsourced translation is really bad," or "It's really good," or nothing at all because they don't even read it?
Well, that's 2 questions, right? There are 2 questions. I mean, for the first one, the machine translation. I believe the machine translation is getting better and better, more powerful. But at least for now, for the book translation, or some the literatures.
Yeah.
So the machine translation still cannot do the job. And I think actually there's always something that machine translation cannot do. And those things, those jobs are actually, I mean, the human translators are more valuable for doing that kind of jobs. So that's for the first question, the machine translation. Yeah. And for the second questions, I mean the multiple translators working on the same book, right? Actually, we before we started, before we launched the Ian Gutenberg project, actually we had a number of projects, of translating books with the multiple translators, including Steve Jobs by Isaac. Isaacson, yeah. So we had 5 translators out of 400 candidates. So that 5 translators collaborated together, and they had the work done in 1 month to translate the book. Steve Jobs.
Quick.
So, yeah,
relatively, yeah.
That's pretty quick, and the quality is, I would say, the quality is good. At the very beginning, people doubt about the quality of the translation. There were some, wild criticisms. But after people read the book, read the translation, I think they accepted the quality of the translation. It's not perfect, but it's good, I would say. So, yeah. We usually suggest 2 to 4 translators to work together on 1 book. No more than 4 usually.
Yeah.
Because for a team with more than 4 translators, the quality would be a big issue. I mean, to the consistency of the style, translation style, would be a big issue. So that's why we limit the number of translators to 4. That's how we suggest the community. So I think the fact is most books being translated in Gutenberg project have pretty good quality, because the translators can discuss together, and they can actually, working together is a way to improve the quality of the work. Is that true? I'm not sure if you believe this or not. But
I think it's very true. Like, there's this very romantic idea of the writer and the unique voice and all of that. And I've often been to groups and gatherings of translators that spoke about the unique voice of the translator being in dialogue with the unique voice of the writer. It's like, of course, there's a skill, the art. I like to think, I don't know if you've ever heard of a group of Italian writers they call themselves Woomin. They're based out of Bologna, and they're a really interesting group of people from Italy. They write collectively. So I think there's 5 of them, maybe there's 4 of them. And their great thing is saying, well, we live in a world where we have lost the power of great narratives and great myths. And it's really important to give people heroic figures, to think of history as having heroic figures, because that's empowering for people. But these heroic figures are built out of, I don't know, some sort of collective thought or correspond to the spirits of the time, and don't necessarily need to be written by a single person.
Exactly.
And so what they do is they write these big narrative epic books collectively. And you don't really know how, I'm not sure how they work and whether each of them works on a passage or they all collaborate. But they made a book I really, really like called Manituana, which is a history of the American Revolution seen by an Indian. Who is, this guy signed a treaty with the Queen of England or the King of England to protect his land. And then suddenly all of these peasant random farmers come and break the treaty and attack him. So he goes over to England to go to court to be preserved, and then in the end flees to Canada with his family. So it's a really radical way of reading that moment in history, and it's written collectively. And I find them one of the most interesting literary narrative coming out of Europe recently. And they have embraced something which is in the spirit of Wikipedia or crowdsourcing or all that, which is the sense of collaboratively creating fiction and myths.
So that's exactly, the technology. I mean, the nowadays technology provide us such a, possibility to collaborate together easily, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing, and another thing is, I believe, the collective translation or translating collectively is just an alternative. I'm not saying it's better or it's worse, but it's an alternative to working single or translating as a single person. So that's actually our philosophy. Our belief behind EN, we provide alternatives to our readers.
Yeah, it's different way of working. So I know that one of the things behind Marco Polo is possibly compared to Yi and because there are fewer people interested in reading Chinese literature, but those interested are generally students. Our model really brings together reading and translating, the practice of translating as language learning. And so one thing that we've done is organized workshops for people to come together and translate. And I've noticed in these workshops, we're running these events, we call them All You Can Translate, and they organize like a race. 3 hours, form small teams, quickest team gets a prize, best paragraph gets a prize. But people working in teams on translating a text adopt various models. And some people really work together and discuss all the way. And others will break down the work and say, you take the first paragraph, I take the second paragraph, you take the third, and then each person works on theirs, and then they aggregate it. So I've observed when you bring people together and, same setting, 4 people at a table translating a text, same instruction, same balance, Chinese people and Westerners together. Some will have this individual bias and just, I want to do my translation. And others will say, no, I'm going to talk all the way with other people. And it's really strange. And the balance of whether people prefer to work collectively or individually is not very clear.
Yeah.
But the two models really seem to coexist.
Yes, that's true. So you do organize offline activities, right?
So yeah, it's something that we started doing, partly because from wisdom I gained from people who organize online, anything that has to do with online reading, online literature, or online communities. It seems that often if you can have some sort of offline element, it helps cement the community. So that's one reason. And also we had quite a strong Melbourne base for our translators, just because that's where we started, and so we had a number of people here. And I've been working myself with a local language exchange organization, where their focus is just bringing together international students from China and also Japan and Korea and people here who learn the language. So we thought, let's try to see if an event would work. And I had this idea for a translation race. I thought, oh, that would be funny, and that would be stimulating. And so we run one, and it worked really well. People really loved it. So we've been running them again. I was in Nanjing. I run them in Nanjing again.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And yeah,
and I heard that you also have planned running such events in other cities in China.
Yeah, we're planning to run them elsewhere. We've got people to help us in Shanghai and Beijing, and we're currently trying to contact universities or groups in other parts of China and the world. We might be able to run some in the UK and in the US. Because they're really easy to run, they're cheap, they're fun for people, they really stimulate people. The main thing they do is they build confidence. My background, apart from writing, is as a language teacher. And you notice as a teacher that often your students are much better than they think they are. Especially with Chinese. I don't know if it's because the language is so difficult or there's modesty built in the culture. But people say, oh, I can't,
French, right?
I can't do this. And they're really good. But they say, oh, I can't possibly translate. And then you bring them to the task and they do very good work. And so you can tell them, hey, look, you're doing good work. You can do it again.
Yeah.
That's why we're running them. Have you ever had a Yiyan meetup or Yiyan
we had
group or something
before?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we had several before, but for the past year, we had only very few events, meetups with translators. I think that's kind of the something pity. Actually, we'd like to collaborate with Marco Polo project. If you have offline events in China, maybe we can collaborate together.
Definitely,
we can help. Yeah, and we are also planning to do more offline events this year. And I think that helps.
They're interesting, but you're doing well online. How did your community grow so large? Did it grow very quickly at first, or did you advertise, or how did you get to 400,000 users? For China, it may not be big, but for Australia, it's kind of the whole population or something.
Well, I think partly because of the whole population. We've never done advertising. It's organic growth. It's organic growth all the way. So since we started 7 years ago, and each year we probably have 50,000 to 60,000 new users, registered users. So gradually we accumulate that many users. So it's not very amazing. Speaking of the number of the users, it's still a small community in China.
Yeah, that's what I call Chinese modesty. But
okay.
What was I going to say? Do you know who your users are? Like, are they very young, or are they of all ages? Are they very nerdy, stay-at-home types, or?
Well, we did this kind of statistics before. Most readers, most translators are from 25 to 35. Their ages are from 25 to 35. So most are young people. And most readers and translators are well educated. I mean, at least with a college degree or post college. So that's a statistic, just a statistic.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I had this question. Uh, so you're translating. You started, you said, by partnering with the Guardian and bringing
Mm-hmm.
news from the
Yeah.
English-speaking world into Chinese. Now, why is it important to translate them into Chinese? Can't Are the people interested in these news not already able to read them in English, or not? And I don't really know what the current state is of reading in English in China.
Yeah, I know a lot of people can read English directly.
Mm.
They have quite good, English skills,
Mm-hmm.
including reading skills. But
Yeah.
I think Chinese is still their native language, so it's much easier for them to read in Chinese.
Mm.
And yeah, I think that's the meaning of doing so. And more importantly, I believe is we, as I said, we provide alternatives to Chinese readers.
Mm.
And Ian was doing this earlier than other. I would say other similar websites or similar projects in China. I think that's cute. We started as a geek website, but after that, there's a number of websites in China focusing on reporting Western technology. Startups like 36KR,
Mm-hmm.
you know that, and like Wuxiu from traditional media.
Yeah.
So we can lose our readers to those new, media.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's good because more and more people join us. I would say join us to do such kind of work. That's better than only Ian, only single website doing such work. So.
What do you think is it's something I've reflected on quite a bit, but the difference between a translated text and a text written by a foreign correspondent. So
okay,
I know that's
I think that's different thing because my understanding is by articles written by foreign respondent, you mean they are reporting something about China, about Chinese people.
Yeah, I know that my motivation for developing Marco Polo project, my one of my inspirations was a very good publication in France called Le Courrier International, the International Mail. And what they were doing, they might still be around, was they were a weekly magazine, and they had exclusively translated articles from the international press. And the articles could be about the countries themselves, so Japanese article about Japan.
I see.
And they could be cross articles. They would have, a Japanese article about America or an American article about France. And the goal was to train readers in seeing the world from multiple perspectives. And I know the thing I was really missing, because as I was studying Chinese, I also read stuff about China, was what I would call the Western voice. And talking about China with the Western voice. Some of the people writing, I was really doubtful of. I just thought, these people can't even speak Mandarin. I read a piece recently. It was horrible. It was this journalist from the UK reporting about whatever, and he'd been to China and said, and all of the signs are in Chinese, so you can't read them. I just say, well, it's not you can read them, it's you can't read them. I can, because I made the effort. Why are you a journalist writing about China who can't even speak Chinese, right? So you get these people. Then you have the respectable people who have made the effort of learning Chinese before they started reporting on the country.
Mhm.
But even then, I find if your readership is Western, you're addressing people with a certain set of expectations, and you'll need to
Yes.
frame your reporting or your analysis with these expectations in mind, and they might not align with what's happening in China. Or even
Mhm.
the subject matter might be, people are obsessed with whatever, Tibet, Taiwan, corruption, and these are
Mhm.
things
Mhm.
happening in China. But then there's also relationship between grandparents and grandchildren, and that's also happening, but no one's
Mhm.
interested. Or maybe it is actually central. So
I
yeah,
see.
that's what I thought. That's why I wanted translations, because you would get the Chinese way of analyzing, and also the subject matter would be the subject matter that is of interest to a Chinese readership, and not exclusively targeted at whatever the concerns are of Parisians or New Yorkers.
Okay.
Uh,
So I think so. The purpose of your work, I mean, the purpose that you translate is you want to learn from the original Chinese text. Is that right?
yeah,
So
yeah, it's really about learning from the source.
yeah, learning from the source, not the second-hand material or
Yeah.
second-hand. So I think the same thing here, for Yiyan. So we translate, the articles written by Western writers
Mm.
about their life, about their country, about their system. So we translate them to Chinese, introduce them into Chinese readers,
Mhm.
and we want Chinese readers to learn, how Western people live, how they work, how they
Mhm.
study, how they, you know, uh, be together with others,
Mhm.
and even how they see China, you know. So their opinions. We do translate some articles written by Western authors about China,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, as you said, they have certain, uh, you know, framework or certain aspects of their stance. But I think that's also good for us to know,
Mhm.
how they think of us, how they think of China.
Yeah.
As I said, that's an alternative. That's also an alternative
Uh.
to now, we have our opinion about our country, our life, our people, but we also need to know the opinions of others.
Mm.
So it's all about alternatives. That's the key word.
Yeah, alternatives. Yeah, it's really important. So, did you find that there's a lot of appetite in China for hearing these alternative voices and these voices from overseas?
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
I was really impressed by something in China. I'm impressed by a lot of things in China, but that's it's a specific scene. I was in Nanjing for 5 months recently, and I was staying next to Nanjing University, next to a bookstore called the Xianfeng bookstore. So the avant-garde.
Avant-garde, yeah, right.
I heard it's the biggest independent bookstore in China. I don't know if you've been. It's built inside an underground car park, and it's enormous.
Wow.
They do events. It's really wonderful. But the thing that was really impressive, there was this scene. There was a 17-year-old girl who had picked up a book from one of they're presented very forward, and it was works by Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher. And they had this whole wall of Western philosophy that these teenage Chinese girls were reading through with quite strong interest. But the admirable thing about the bookstore was really how it was balancing works from China and works from overseas. There was also a long alley going up with classics on both sides, and one side was Chinese classics, and the other side was classics from Europe and Japan and America. And you could see that the bookstore was really embodying a kind of global republic of letters or ideas with a lot of books from everywhere. I don't know if that reflects the way the average Chinese person reads, but I was really impressed by it.
Yeah, I think it does reflect the situation in China, the general situation, as well as the status of individual mankind or individual person. We are in a stage that we are rebuilding our culture. I would say, so we learn something from our tradition. We also like to learn something from Western countries.
Yeah.
So we kind of mixing together the Eastern culture and the Western culture. I would say it's a process. It's still in the process. We don't know what the result will be like, but yeah, it's a process. It's a mixing process. So
it's really fascinating to observe, and it was really scary for me to reflect back on the bookshops I've seen here in Australia, which are disproportionately Anglo. Like, there's some translated work from China or from other countries, but really, it seems like Ireland is more important than China if you look at the contents. And sometimes you just want to shake people and just say, you know what? Maybe China is more important than Ireland globally.
Well, it's understandable. China becomes more powerful and powerful. I mean, but in terms of culture, I think we're not that powerful yet. Not that strong yet. So we inherit from tradition, and we also import from West. Yeah, that's because of our current situation.
Yeah.
Probably Western countries are, they have a good time. They had a good time, and they still have a good time. So probably they don't have that strong desire to learn, Eastern culture, Chinese culture.
That's very true, and it's strange. And that, like, one of the concerns, one of the things that I'm looking at with Marco Polo is how do you create this appetite? Because without the appetite, there won't be learning. And without learning, there won't be understanding. And without understanding, well, everything is going to go bad.
That's a good question.
But it's already something I noted coming from France to the English-speaking world. It's been a really interesting journey for me. France, because the French people still like to think of themselves as a global power of international, radiance. And it's true to an extent, but still, it's not the United States. It's not the English-speaking world. It's kind of second level. Might be second, it's definitely not first. And for that reason, there's quite a lot of interest in what's happening overseas in the United States. There is people read a lot of translation, whether it's in the news, this newspaper I was telling you, or literature and all that. And also because it's part of continental Europe, people are very massively exposed to other influences from continental Europe. So you see, the thing is not as focalized. I've noted I don't know about the United States too much. I've been there, but I don't live there. In Australia, the people will be very sensitive to the backgrounds of the people of the various communities that form Australia, because that's quite remarkable. You have people from China and from Italy and from Greece, and so you'll have all of these books and thinkings and writings and everyday discussions about how you're from China, you're from Malaysia, how does that inform your everyday life, blah blah. That's very, very present, or quite present. And so you get people who are very open to diversity internally. But then when it comes to actually going to try and understand what's happening today in China or Spain, it's, oh, we'd rather listen to the Chinese people who are here, and how they're not quite like us, but half. So that's kind of what I'm observing. So there's the possibility for a huge opening to the world, but it's as if, it's just the door is there, but no one is stepping across. Okay, or the bridge is there, but no one is crossing it.
Well, that's understandable. I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, understand.
But yeah, I don't know if you have any view on how to make English speakers more like Chinese people and aware of the whole world. Is there a trick? How do you do that?
Well, we don't have any trick actually. That's mainly because of the nature of our the nature of our need or demand. I think. Yeah. So we don't have to do trick. That's why I said it must be much tougher for you to do Marco Polo project than us to do the EN project.
Yeah, possibly. That's true. But hopefully it's growing. What I'm observing at the same time is a growing interest in China. So it's interesting with Marco Polo project. I think in terms of the underlying business models and what we're looking at, where at the moment it doesn't look like we've got a very solid standard for-profit economic model, just because the audience is small.
Yes,
but we're getting very strong interest and support from a whole range of organizations, whether it's cultural exchange or universities or people working in the culture sphere, because there is this sense that, well, it's important for us to try and understand what's on the other side.
Yes.
And maybe if the public demand is not there quite yet, either it will come, or it should be a bit bigger than it is. So we're able to benefit to an extent from cross subsidies or a bit of grant here and there, just because there's a general sense that, maybe we should cultivate this knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah, try to cultivate that, and I've sensed that. So it's been interesting, because at the same time I've been there shouting, "You should read more stuff from China and not just English stuff." And people have said, "Yes, you're right." And then I feel bad, because I'm like, "Yeah,
yes, you're right.
I know." And you're reading cool stuff, and there's really good stuff coming out of America and Ireland and all that, and they're really funny people. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to grow our own audience.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I also hope so that you have a growing audience and you get enough support from whatever organizations, universities, or even companies. It's not easy to run such a business. I mean, business, not commercial business.
Yeah.
We are trying to survive commercially. I mean, EN is trying to survive commercially. We are not succeed yet. I mean, we haven't succeeded yet, but there's a hope there's a hope that we can break even probably this year or maybe next year.
Mm.
Our income mainly from publishing and translation services.
Mm.
So and we use that revenue, that income to support the development of our community.
Mm. Yeah. So you're looking at kind of income from publishing to
Yes.
support the community. We're thinking of various models with Marco Polo, and it's not quite sure yet which one. We're toying with it. Like everyone in tech, you don't really know what you're doing. You're trialing stuff, and some of it works or doesn't. But yeah, we've been thinking of trying to go the other way, or try to see whether we could develop some educational activities, so teaching activities that would actually fund the cultural side of things. Model the places like the Alliance Française, for instance, work like this, which are cultural organizations. They have French classes which people have appetite for, and then they run a whole lot of cultural activities and feed them to people through their classes. And they're generally not profitable. They're kind of marketing for the classes in business terms, but it's a good model in terms of promoting culture and teaching language to people. So it might be where we're heading, or we might get ongoing subsidies, or we might be a niche thing that just runs on the side, or we might become part of Yiyan when you've broken the code. Who knows?
We'll definitely collaborate, but that doesn't mean that we want to, But yes, we will collaborate with the Marco Polo project, and I believe it takes years for you to find a way
to grow.
To grow.
But these are fun years.
Yeah, I wish you success. I do.
You too. And thank you for, you're already quite on the way.
Thank you. Actually, Julian, I always want to say thank you for all the work you have done to connect with us together to make all this happen, to bring me to this festival, to this event, to obtain such an opportunity. And I also want to thank the organizer. Please send my thanks to them.
Yeah, the organizers are great of this festival. It's a wonderful initiative. There's people, who knows where there are people listening to us now, maybe in the United States or in China. Everywhere.
Sure.
So, I think we've kind of talked and introduced what we're doing. I don't know if there's any pending stuff that you wanted to discuss further, or that you think whoever is listening to us would like to hear.
Well, I think that's pretty much for today, or for this talk.
Excellent. Well, so have a good day, and we'll talk again soon.
You too.
Somehow.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll see you again, actually. Right? You'll come to China again.
Oh, definitely. I'm coming back in June.
Great. So see you then in June. And you too. Have a nice day. And thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.